Hi everyone, it's Martin. Welcome welcome to, should I say, this our second in our Pano2VR 101 series of webinars. This one's looking at hotspots. As said, my name's Martin, and
I'm Karen. I'm in the background here. I'm going to be helping out with the Q&A and just wanted to point you over to Martin's screen. As you can see, there's a Q&A tab, and we're asking everybody to put their questions there. And we'll be stopping every once in a while throughout today's webinar to take questions. Yeah, and we'll try to answer all of them. And if we don't get to all of them, yeah, we'll hopefully get them in some other place on the internet. So I'm going to leave it over to Martin, and we can get started. Thank you.
right, hi everyone. Right, as said, this is 101 hotspots. Basically, let's get rid of this and get Pano2VR open. Right, so this is the project we left last week. So what we'll be doing is building on week with the project that we did. So this is the project where we patch the bottom of it, etc, etc. Right, so as said, this is all about hotspots. To actually get to hotspots in Pano2VR, there's a couple of ways of doing it. You can change the viewer mode. Here you can see point hotspots, but you've also got the keyboard shortcut P. So if I was to press P on my keyboard, you'll see that on my screen. It changes to the point hotspot viewer mode. Now, before I go any further, just want to say that I am on the Mac, so if you see me do keyboard combinations, I'm using the Command key. If you're on the PC, you would be using the Control key. On the Mac, the Alt key is classed as the option on the Mac, and it's Alt on the older Macs and Alt on the PC. So if you see key combinations, that's what's going on. Right, now I've already mentioned about keyboard shortcuts. Just to show you, if you go to, with Pano2VR open, you can go to the Help menu, go to Help. That opens up our web page. If you go to Reference, we've got a list of keyboard shortcuts here. So if you ever want to see what they are and what keyboard shortcuts are available, that's the fastest way to do it. Okay, so with that said, how do we work with hotspots? Well, once you're in hotspot viewer mode, all you do is just double click and it adds one. Now the properties panel is dynamic in Pano2VR. So if I was to click back into the panorama, you'll see the properties panel shows me information about the Pano. If I click on the hotspot, it now shows me information about, or the properties of the hotspot. We have type. Here we go. So the default hotspot is a URL. We can select to a node, image, video, and info for information. So those are the different types of hotspots we can add. Right, so what I want to do then is start off, and we're going to be adding an a image hotspot. All right, now the easiest way to do that, so let's just backspace that and delete that. So again, if you want to delete a hotspot, if it's there, we can either go to the list view and delete it in the list, or as we did, double click with it highlighted with its red. I mean, blue means it's an active hotspot with inside Pano2VR. When we click on it, it turns red. It's we are now in sort of, if you like, an editing mode. We can edit this hotspot. I can just hit the backspace and delete it. Okay, let's just change the panel back to output. So as I said, what we want to do is add a image hotspot. So what I'm going to do, there's various ways you can do this, and just to show you quite a neat trick, and that's if I open up a web page, let's just type in the name of the place I'm at the moment. Let's go to a wiki page. Here we can see I've got this image. All right, so here is the image, and what I can do, if I just move this to just minimize, just reduce it in size, we can literally just drag and drop that in. All right, and that's it. I've placed my image hotspot. It's changed the hotspot type to image for me automatically. I just need to put a title in, so let's just call it church. It's already put the URL in, it's ready to go. So if I now select the output, and let's have a look, and here it is. There is the, let's just make the browser window a little bit bigger so it's easier to see. All right, if I click the hotspot now, it says church because I put the name in, and when I click it, it will fetch it from the internet, and we can now show an image hotspot. By default, it is resizable. Now, just to recap, this is only working because we selected one of the default skins that comes with Pano2VR. If you don't have a skin, this will do something different. It's because our skins have got the right components, as we're going to call them, inside that skin to make this happen. So this is all working on the premise that we've selected either a silhouette or simplex skin, which are the two skin, if you like, controllers that come with Pano2VR. All right, so that's one for showing how to create an image hotspot from dragging in an image from the internet. As long as the image that you're dragging in, or you can drag in a URL, as long as it ends with an image type. So if you've got like www blah 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 and it ends with, you know, image.jpg or tiff, then you can use that with the drag and drop. Okay, if you want to add a image pop-up and you've got the images in your project folder, again, make sure that you've selected the hotspot viewer mode. You can double click, select this manually now, so we can go to image and then just give it the name. We can say again before, see, so we called it church before, and you'll see that we've got this open folder. So if I click the open folder, it will open the project, and we can just select the image that we want to open, select open. Let's just view this by clicking the create output button, which is the cog, click OK, and there it is. All right, and again, it's going to be responsive. All right, so that's a couple of ways of adding an image pop-up. Of course, we can just drag and drop images in as well. So again, as an example, if I've got my folder, as long as I've got my hotspot viewer mode set to hotspots, I could, where is it, just drag that in as well, and that again adds it as an image, adds the file path to it, and yeah, we just type in the description. So there are all the various different ways of adding image hotspots. Right, I'm just going to take it back to Karen. Do we have any questions, Karen, at all?
Hi. Yeah, we already have a flood of questions.
Okay.
I think, and a lot of them we can just answer really quickly. Christoph, who's part of our team here, is also in the background answering some questions, but I want to get some of the answers recorded in the video. So guest 442, yes, he's asking if you can add hotspots to 360 videos, and yes, 360 video is not any different, is not treated any differently than still images in the viewer. And guest 212, he asked if the image, when you're adding an image, if it can be local and not just, you know, on the internet.
Yep, just showed that. You probably asked that question before I got to it, but
yeah, okay. Then I wasn't paying attention. I'm really sorry. I was working in the background here. Okay.
Yeah,
then, oh yeah, Andre asks, can you add a GIF format to hotspots?
What, as in show a GIF?
Yeah, can you use a GIF for the image type? I think that's what he's asking.
Yeah, basically, if you're going to add a GIF, I'm assuming you're meaning an animated GIF, because you might want the hotspot graphic that you're seeing to animate a little bit. If that's the case, then you would use an external loader and then load the animated GIF via that, and then you would see that point hotspot image animate. We can do that. That's easy enough to do, but I'm really don't want to get into that right now because of this being a 101 type. This is the basics. Just want to get into showing people how to do this to actually get the point hotspots in and working. That is what I would say, something over and above a 101 type webinar. It can be done. You'd use instead of an image in the skin, you would use an external loader, load in your animated GIF, and then you can see the animations, no problem. But I don't really want to show that right now and don't want to stick or spend too much time answering that one because it's not a 101 type question.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point. I just want everyone to know that we see your questions, but some of them aren't really relative to the content that we want to talk about today, and they might be a little too advanced. But we'll try our best to just quickly go over them. So there's a question from guest 693 and who's asking if can two tours share an image but be separate? I'm not sure what this might be referring to. I'm wondering if an image can share the same, a panorama can share the same image. Is that the question?
Or is it you have the same panorama in two different tours? I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. We'll get back to that. Yeah, later. So, Phil has a good question, I think, which is good at this point here, and he's asking, can you change the transition so the image appears with a smooth fade in and out?
Yes, you can do that. Our default skins don't, but basically when you click a hotspot, what we're doing in the background is saying something to show. Now, if we use a visible, it's either showing or not showing, but what you could do is use an alpha and then fade that in over a period of, say, half a second or a second. So it is it is possible, but again, don't really want to cover it in this webinar.
That's a little too much, but yeah, the answer is yes. Yes. I know we get this question a lot, so I'm just going to bring this up to you, Martin, and maybe it's just something you can touch on later, where Alexander is asking if, how to show PDF files in a pop-up. So that's very similar here, I think, or is that we're usually working in the skin for that?
It's something that's going to be showing next, actually, because we're going to be covering URL hotspots, which basically is something I'm just about to show in the next section. So if we can wrap up the questions, I can sort of get going on to that, and then perhaps we can answer a bit more.
Okay, yeah.
All right.
Let's do that. And everyone else who we didn't get to, we might come back to that at the end of the webinar. So,
and plus we'll be stopping periodically throughout that. So,
yeah.
Okay, right.
Okay, thank you.
Right, sorry, Karen. Right, so I'll get back then. So that was basically image hotspots. The next type of hotspot I want to show about adding is URLs. So again, make sure you're in hotspot viewer mode, double click. Now, the default, as I said before, is a URL. So this is to show a web page. So let's just type in a title. So web page, and let's just use our HTTPS. Now it has to be an absolute. So URL, and so I've typed in the URL, and then we have what we call our target. Now our target, if you click the drop down box, the two I want to keep an eye on or bring your attention to, sorry, is our blank and self. If I select blank, okay, let's just put this so I can find it when we do the output. Here we go, and produce the output. What we should see now is not only is it different, it's now looking, so we've got a web page where actually it's detected with using type URL, it's using a different graphic, and when I click the button it's opening in a different tab. Okay, if I choose self, here we go, and publish out or create the output, if I was to click the hotspot now, it will replace. So it's actually changing, it's actually replacing the tour for the web page. So that's self. We've got one other little trick with the default skins, and that is if I highlight the target and just delete it, All right, so that was the backspace. If we go to the skin configuration button, there is a selection for opening the URL in an iframe, so it opens it within the player or within the panorama. So here it is. If I click on it, we now see the web page open here. So getting back to that question with the PDF, if you targeted your PDF, you should see your PDF here. So it's a scrollable page. The problem with PDFs is that I think on some mobiles, I think iOS, they don't like you scrolling. In that case, the silhouette and simplex skins that come with Pano2VR detect iOS and will just open them up in a new page. So if you were on an iPhone and you were to click this, it would open it up in a new tab or new page. You can view the PDF and then close it. And obviously, if you open it up on a computer, you see it within the player as you're seeing it now. So we do that automatically. All right, so that's hotspot type of image and now URL. What I'm going to do now is, let's just go back to properties, is look at hotspot type. What we're going to look at, video. Okay, right. Now we've got several for video, so let's just move the panorama and double click, changing the type to video, and here we can see source. Okay. Now we've got file, URL, YouTube and Vimeo. YouTube and Vimeo I think speak for themselves. URL and file, not so much. Right, okay. Basically a file is if you've got a video local to your project folder. I've got one here of a church. I can literally just drag and drop it. If I click on that, you can see that it's added the type video file. I would just type in a title, church. It's already got the file path in, so let's just delete that one I added manually, so I'll put that there. If we build the output, you'll see that yet again the icon changes to say that it's now a video. When I click this, we're now playing the video locally. Because it's a local file, we are actually using our own play pause buttons and our own seek bar. That's part of Pano2VR. When you get into Pano2VR and skins, you can go in there and completely customize all this. You can change colors, shapes, sizes, the lot. But again, for our default skin, if you add a local file, you will get the play button and seek bar. We can also add, let's just do this manually. So let's just close this. Add another point hotspot. Let's again call that video. This one is going to be a URL. Now I've got to try and remember this, so bear with me. What I've done is taken that same video and I've now put it on a server. All right, so this is what the URL video type means. It doesn't mean it's from another player or anything. It just basically means I've put my MPEG-4 video now in a server. It could be that I have several tours that share the same video, so this would be a way to do it. You would put that video into a common folder and then all your tours can target that. So again, if I just https:// so me//.mpeg4. Right, if I've typed that all correctly, that should, he says, show up video, which it does. And when I click that, you see there was that slight loading. This is now playing from the server. All right, so this is the type video. And again, we've got our seek bar. But this time round it's now playing from a server rather than a local file. Okay, so that's that type. The other type we've got is, let's have a look. We could take it from YouTube. So here's a YouTube video I've got here. So I'm just going to kill the sound. Now, adding YouTube videos, there's a couple of ways you can do this, but what I'm going to do is if we just pause this, All right. I'm just going to move this over to a different screen and just get the Pano2VR back. Right, so if I bring this back again, to add a YouTube video, all right, you would just basically click on the little icon and drag it in. Boom, done. You've now added your YouTube video. All right, I'll just park it there. You can see not only has it already detected that it's a video, it's YouTube, it's also put in the title of the YouTube video, and we've got the video link or index link or ID of the video already set as well. So if I now export this, you'll see it gets the same video icon. This time round we've picked up the whole of the title, and when we click this we see the YouTube video. All right, okay. If you want to add a YouTube video manually, so if we click this link, you'll see it opens up on YouTube. You just do that exactly. You can just copy this, the URL, double click, again video file type is going to be YouTube, right button click, paste. As we enter, it does exactly the same thing, including sticking in the title. So that's adding YouTube pop-ups. That's also do it manually as well. One other video type that we can do is Vimeo. All right, so as a good example of this, what I'm going to do is go to our help page. Let's go help, video tutorials, and let's have a look at I don't know what's right about hotspots, strange enough, because that's what we're doing. So again, if you've got a Vimeo, if you click the share button, you've got the URL here, and basically all I need to do is click, drag that in and drop it, and that's set the video type to Vimeo. Again, it's put in the title, and it's put in the link. Again, if I just create the output, you'll see that here it is our video hotspot. When I click this, it will load.
Point hotspots are points of interaction.
There you go, that will load the video. All right, okay. So there's all our video hotspots. I think I'll just take a breather there, one to grab a drink, and two to ask Karen, do we have any more questions?
Hi. Yeah, we've got plenty of questions. The first one I want to take comes from Ricardo, where he's not sure what self means. Can you explain what self means quickly?
Yes, certainly. When we did the web page hotspot, so let's just go back to there. So this is this hotspot. You'll see that we. Oh, hang on. Was that? No, that was the image. Oh, did I delete that? Oh, I might have deleted it. Okay, doesn't matter. Oh, no, here it is. It's the URL. Basically, it's the target because we had blank and self. Now, what self does when selected, we'll just do that again. If I create the output, so we're seeing the panorama. When I click the hotspot, self means it's going to open the HTML page in the same window, so replacing the panorama. If I click that, we've now replaced the panorama for, actually, no, tell a lie, because I've still got this going. Right, do apologise, because the last thing we did was turn this on, so let's turn that off, republish. Okay, so back to normal. Right, so when I click this, we're actually replacing the panorama with the web page. So that's what self means. So the target is self, it's the same web page. If I was to change that to blank, and we created the output again, all right, so what would happen is if we click the web page now, it creates a new tab. So the web page is still there, we haven't replaced it, we've created a new tab. Depending how your browser is set up, it will either open up a new window or a new tab, but that's a browser setting rather than something we do in Pano2VR. Okay.
Right, yeah, that's the target, and that's these are basic web terms, and you can find the definitions of all these targets also on our documentation. So if they all confuse you or you forget later, you'll find their definitions in our documentation to help you out. So let's see, what do we have here? There are a lot of questions. There are a lot of questions asking about 360 video. So I just want to address this. Yes, you can use 360 video. Yes, you can add hotspots to 360 video. Michael is asking if there's a video resolution frame size. Does it have an impact on size during playback? This is not a simple question because it depends on what you're playing it back on. But Pano2VR can support any frame rate and resolution. So I just want to get that out of the way first. Let's take it back to bringing in our videos. You can also have, can you bring in a 360 video that's stored locally as a video hotspot?
Yes, you can, but not on an iOS device. An iOS device will show it as a flat, so as an equirectangular image, or an equirectangular 360 image, rather than the proper 360 image. But on Android devices and desktops, you will see the 360 video. So there is a limitation on device that's playing. All right. Okay.
Okay, so I think I just want to see. Okay, Jim is asking if you can embed Vimeo videos using custom embed options that you've set up on Vimeo. And yeah, sure. It's just reading the Vimeo player, and Martin used the Vimeo link from one of our tutorials, which is using our own embed options. So it's just going to bring up that player. Okay, so I think there's one question that keeps popping up from guest 46, where they're asking if you can show perspective in hotspots. So when a hotspot's closer to you or further away, how do you show that perspective? I don't know if you're going to touch on this today or...
Probably not. The answer is yes, we can do that. We can do it within Logic Blocks, but it's not something I'm going to be touching on today. We do it automatically for VR, so WebXR. In headsets, we automatically, I think up to 10 meters. So we do, so 1 to 10 meters, we can show different sizes. We do that automatically. But in an output for the computer, you can set distances. Of course, your panoramas need to be geo-tagged, so Pano2VR knows how far away they are from each other, etc., etc. But it can be done, yes.
Okay, great. And I think I just want to check. I know Christoph's been answering in the background. I'm just checking right now to see if anything has been covered that might be relevant to everyone else who's not joining in on the live chat. Oh, yeah, here's a good question from Luke. Are dragged and dropped pictures, images, and videos, are they automatically added to the asset folder when exporting?
Yes, they are. Anything that you add through the blue folder, when you add, say, an image or anything like that, what happens is it's not the assets. What it does is we actually put it into the image. The assets folder is only when you add assets under the advanced tab here. Okay, but when you're adding say videos or something like that, Pano2VR generates a media folder, so all videos will go into a media folder within the output, and pictures will go into the images folder into the output. But it's done it for you. You don't have to worry about, do I need to put this image in the right place? You just add it to Pano2VR, and on output, Pano2VR puts all the images and files where they should be in the output for you. So there's no need to worry about that at all. So, yeah.
Okay, I think that hits this round.
Excellent.
Yeah, move on to the next one.
Right, cool. Okay. Right, the next type of hotspot then I want to introduce you to is our information hotspot. Now, again, I'm going to iterate the fact that this is all working because we're using a skin. If you had no skin, then you would just have red dots and things wouldn't appear as they do right now. But yeah, because we have this silhouette and we've got the simplex skin, everything is working as is shown. Right, so the next hotspot then, so again, whilst I'm in hotspot viewer mode, double click, I'm going to add a information hotspot. So let's just go to info. Now what this one does is it looks at title and description. So the title will be the title text of the information box, and the description will be the body text of your information box. Now I've got some text I'm just copying here. Alright, so let's just give it a title of church, and then I'm just going to right button click and paste this info in. It just saves me a lot of time. And basically what I have to do now is just create the output. And what we should do now is see the information logo. When I click that, we've got our information pop up and we've got our scroll bars. Alright, so that's basically the information pop up. One thing I just wanted to cover quickly, it makes no difference to you really with the operations. This is just a little bit of under the hood why things are happening, because we're just dragging in things and you'll see that we're getting in different icons. And again, what's actually happening is when we add a hotspot and telling it what type it is, you'll notice that we've got this skin ID. So this is something within the skin. So if I was to change that to URL, you would see that change to hotspot URL. So this is something that's in the skin that would then show the relevant icon. Okay, so in this case, when I chose info, it's using a hotspot that's got the information icon. So this is done automatically within Pano2VR. Right. One of the other things that that I want to show you here is let's have a look. Did I need to do another output? I didn't know. Right, okay, so what do I want to show you? Right, the custom input. Now basically when we add hotspots to Pano2VR, we're using our own images. Okay, but it may be that you want to add your own custom information image or something like that. Now in all the hotspots, all the different hotspot types, we have this custom image that you can select that. And I'm just going to use our Gnome logo actually, which we used for the patch. It's a bit big, I know that, don't worry. Let's make that 40 by 40 pixels. So that is now going to be used as my hotspot. So I can click generate the output, and there it is. So again, without going into the skin editor, which is the whole point of the 101 series, trying to keep everything as user friendly as possible. If there is a hotspot graphic that you really don't like, you can just add your own. If you don't want it, you can clear it, regenerate, and boom, we're back to normal. Okay, so that's one thing to note, and this is on all of these hotspot images. All of these you can add a custom image, and you add it per hotspot. Okay, so theoretically you could have which is what we're covering next, node hotspots to go from panorama to panorama. You could have, I don't know, a picture of a door on one of them, and when you go through to it, it could have a picture of a revolving door if that's the next door that you need to go through. So you can really tailor-made each of the hotspots. Okay, so with that all said, let's go back to the webinar, and let's talk about the hotspots for tour nodes. Right. Now, this is probably the most common type of hotspot, and probably what everyone's waiting for is, to be able to click and create a virtual tour and go from node to node. Now, there are several ways of doing this. The easiest way, by far, is this node is going to link to this node. All right, so this is our courtyard. Now, again, for those new, a node of the tour is this panorama. I want to link it to this panorama, so I'm going to link two nodes together. The way we do it is just click on the entrance, drag, drop. As soon as we do that, what it's going to do is it links to the entrance panorama. It's done already. It's using the user data title, so it's the title that we set or was set in the user data, so courtyard. So it will be using that for this. And if I just click the cog key, create the output, you'll see we've got another different type of logo. It's showing the panorama here, and with our built-in skins that we also get a preview image as well. Okay, so that's a link that we've created. Now the other thing is as well is that view you see when you get there. Now what we've got is this little icon, and basically it's when we hover over it we should get, here we go, targeting viewing parameters. Looks like a bullseye, but it's the targeting viewing parameters. When we click this, we get our target window. So this is the view we're going to get when we arrive at the entrance. All right, so it could be that, you know, I want to look slightly that way, so I click OK. Let's create the output. When I click there, I'm now looking in that direction. Okay, right. One of the other things we can do, I'm just going to delete that. One of the other things that we can do with Pano2VR is that when you're creating links between nodes, now I've been using the output button only because Pano2VR is so fast that you can just create an output and actually view the tour, how it will look for your customer, all right, straight away. But when you're developing a tour with multiple nodes, you can start to use some keyboard shortcuts. Now, a couple I want to bring you attention to is on the Mac, the command key, and it's going to be the control key for the PC. So you'll see me use command. If I press and hold command and click the hotspot, that automatically brings up my target in view. All right. If I press and hold the alt key or the option on the Mac and click it, I change nodes. All right. So this now makes this very, very fast to set up all of your point hotspots. So I can click a hotspot, check out the targeting, which is fine. Click, go to the next one, check out the targeting, which is fine. Yeah, click, go to the next one, spin it around. All right, now again, another keyboard shortcut. I just span it around by clicking and dragging it around, but if you click the Z key, it automatically gives you a 180-degree spin on the panorama that you're in. So again, I can drag and drop. This time around, I will be setting a different view because I want to now follow my way out of the building. So again, press the alt key, click, and we just carry on doing that until we're out. So let's just carry on doing that and then put that one there. This time round, I may want to reface the way I'm going rather than carry on because I might want to go back in, so I'm quite happy with that, and we can go back out. If I now publish the tour, that's exactly what we get. But as you can see, before I publish, we can actually test the linking, test the hotspots by just using the two keyboards, Alt Command or Alt and Control. So let's just build the output. There's my hotspots. We can go from node to node. When we get to the last node, oh, that should have turned around. Why didn't it turn around? Let's just quickly check that. So let's go to this node. Look at this. Look at the target for it. Spin that around because that's where we want it to be. Click OK. Test that, make sure it does. Yes, it does. Let's rebuild that. So again, when something's not quite working, you know, the speed of the interface, the speed of Pano2VR, there we go, we're now pointing the other way. Here we go. So we can now follow this tour out and back to the start. Okay, so that's basically setting the hotspots, and that's doing it manually. One of the other things I just want to touch on, I don't want to harp too much on it, but you know, Pano2VR can use input images that have geolocation, so GPS. So I just want to quickly show you a tour, a project that we've got. Now this is the same tour, but instead that all the nodes have GPS. Okay, so you can tell that by, in this corner, there is a little picture of a satellite, and that's telling me that all the nodes have location data. So if they've got location data, all I need to do really is just go to tour, automatic linking. Let's just do closest node. Done. That's it. This could have been a couple of thousand panoramas. As long as they've got GPS, all the hotspots are now set. It's as simple as that. If I hold down the option key just to see, and also when we add the hotspots automatically, they're using our forward scheme, so you're always facing the direction you're going. So if I hold down the option, you can see that we go through. I would need to spin round at this point, and then we can come back. All right, so theoretically I would only need to adjust the target of the very last one to look backwards, and then the very first one coming out to go back the way we came. But this is a major time saver, you know. But as I say, this is automatic linking. This is slightly more advanced because you need your input images to have GPS. If they've got it, this is a couple of clicks, as you just saw, all of your hotspots linked, done. All right, so let's just go back to our previous project. Here we go. And that's that. Right, just quickly then, basically when we did an output, you saw that when we clicked a hotspot, we did a crossfade. What we have got, and people will probably ask, is, well, do you have transitions? Yes, we do. Under the HTML5 output, we have this tab, transitions. When I click that, you can see that the default is just a cross dissolve. What we can do, I'm just going to throw some settings in there. I can do zoom in before, zoom in after. I won't bother waiting. These are just some settings. You can obviously play with these with your own heart's content, but now you've got this, you know, zoom in, zoom out. I'm zooming in far too much there, don't like that. So this is the zoom field of view. So let's just back that off to say 40 instead of 20. Again, just going to click this. Again, don't want to spend too much time on it because, you know, you can play about with these yourselves. But yeah, you can see that we've got all the transitions there. We've got lots of different types. We've got cross dissolve, dip to color. Let's just bring that out a little bit. If I select dip to color, you can then use a color picker to choose which color you want to dip to. It could be that you know your customer's website's got a certain color, so you can match that color with your customer's website. As an example, you can you know, iris, fade, wipes, whatever. We've got loads of different types there. All right, so that's basically hotspots, point hotspots. What I said right at the start is, well, we have a different type of hotspot. We've got a Polygon, and I'm just going to quickly show you that. So let's just go, like, we're on our output. Let's just close that tab. And to select Polygon hotspots, again, you can change the viewer mode to Polygon here. It has a keyboard shortcut to 0. So if I just touch 0, you'll see it changes to polygons. Polygons have two different types. And if I just draw a polygon hotspot, so let's just double click and draw a square. All right, you'll see that the hotspot types are URL and turnode, so we can link them to turnode. So it may be that you draw a polygon rounded door, not necessarily want to see an image there. It could be that there's information there that a point hotspot may cover, so you can draw a polygon. Now if we add that, I could, once you've drawn the polygon, to automatically link it, just drag and drop the node in. Hang on, let's do that again. There you go, and that again adds the title and where it's going to link to. You can always add spots, change its shape, delete spots. That's with right button and left button click. Yeah, what can I say? If I export this so we can see this working, here you can see I get the hand cursor and we get a default text box, and we can go in onto there. If you look at the output settings for the HTML5 output, we do have a tab that says hotspots. You can control what that default tooltip looks like. We can turn it off, so I can actually turn it off. I don't really want it. But yeah, you can change the color of things. And the hotspot mode, at the moment it's invisible. I could actually set it to show, like always show. So again, if I was to export this, you can see the hotspot there, so to give someone an indication that it's there. Okay, we can also set that it becomes visible on hover. There's lots of different settings. We can change its color. We can change the color of the border or the inside of the hotspot as well. That can also be done on a button click. So again, you know, if you built a skin, you can ask the skin to change the color of the Polygon hotspots. So that's all the different types of options you have with polygons. Polygons, I said they've only got 2 different types. They can be linked to skin elements. That's a different webinar, but you could actually have, you know, a polygon that when you clicked it, pop open a I don't know, pop open an image. It could play a sound, it could play a video, it could do all sorts. Okay, so that's the Polygon hotspots done. One last thing I'm going to do before we call for questions and wrap this up. It was more to do as if we had enough time. I think we have, and that's I want to introduce you to what we call DNA. Now DNA is direct node access. Okay, now I want to keep it simple, and that's basically if I go to the user data panel, if I look at church 1, I can give it a custom node name. So let's just call this CHONE, church 1. That's what I'm calling it. Okay, so let's just right, I won't publish that just yet. So that's what I've called this particular node. What I need to do to turn on direct node access is go into the HTML tab and click this button, which is the edit template button. I know this sounds a little bit techie, but it is backed up with our documentation, and turn on direct node access. Okay, now this is worth doing if you've got tours, especially if you're a realtor and you're giving out links to people. What this does is allow you to have to actually give out a link, and then when you open it up, you open in that particular node, hence its name, direct node access. Okay, so this is how you set it up. You first turn on direct node access under the HTML tab. You will then give it its own name. There are other ways of doing it. If you actually know the actual node number, you can type that in, but just for pure simplicity, we're going to just stick with the custom node ID. So now if I publish this to, all right, so this is its URL. Now this would be a normal URL and it will end with index.html. So to add the extra parameters on the end, what we do is we add a hash key. All right, let's move that so you can see it. So hash, and then we type in the name. All right, when we hit return, it will take us to that node. All right, now just to prove a point, if I copy, let's just copy this URL and close the browser. If I open the browser and just paste that in, will open directly on that node. The skin is fully reactive to this. So if we go to the thumbnail menu, you will see that that node church 1 is active and it's got the check mark to say that we are here. Okay, all right. Now that's another thing that actually I could probably talk about actually, or forgot to say, is that when we look at the tour node hotspots, you'll notice that we've got the preview image and you've got the icon. If we go to a node that we've already been to and come back again, you'll see that the icon now changes with a tick, and you've got that tick mark in the preview. That's just telling you that you've already been there, and it all works together. So the thumbnail menu's got the check, the tick marks to show the viewer that they've already been there as well. So anyway, I think that just about covers everything I want to do in this webinar for point hotspots and, well, hotspots in general. And Karen, do we have anything? Any more questions?
Oh yes, we have plenty of questions. We can keep you busy for another hour, I think. Thanks everyone for bringing in your questions. It's really great. Yeah, and some of them are a little bit off topic, but that's okay. Before we end this, and I know that Martin will probably explain this, but I just want to let you know that we have a Facebook user group where you can ask questions. You can email us at support@gnome.com for help. We have a forum. So if we don't get to your specific question, ask it there, and there's loads of information there. Yeah. Okay. So there was a question on Polygon hotspots. Yeah, Benoit wanted to know if you can open a URL in an iframe using a Polygon hotspot.
You can link it to the skin component that does that in our skin. It actually uses something we called hotspot proxy ID, but basically what we're doing is the if I actually just select a polygon, how it works is the polygon itself has an ID. I can link this ID to an element within the skin. So the same point hotspot that opened the URL inside the player or inside an iframe, this clicking this polygon will activate the same thing by using this ID to link to the thing in the skin. So yes, it can be done, but it's a is it a little bit more involved? Not really. It's once you know how to do it, it's quite easy. In fact, I actually wrote up a section in our forum about this. There is actually a nice post on exactly how to do this. So rather than me explaining again, check out the forum. It's in there.
Yeah, there's so much in the forum. It's unbelievable. So yeah, a lot of how-tos in there. They're not just people asking questions. There's a lot of how-tos. So Larry asked a while ago if you can have hotspots that can be put on the floor where they appear flat, or are they always 2D?
They can appear flat. Yes, they can. Right. Because we're keeping this to 101, it's right. Okay. How can I show this? If I select P for point hotspots, we're going to click on our hotspot here. I didn't need to select P actually. Just click on this hotspot. As we said before, I can add a custom image. If I add a custom image, let's do our logo again. All right. Let's do this back to 40 by where are we? 40. You can see I've got 3D distorted. All right, and I can now. This will appear to be flat to the panorama. All right. It's completely flat to the panorama and it will distort with it. The only thing it doesn't do is I can't change the what's the right word? Is it the Z axis where it tilts backwards and forwards? What you would do is you would have a graphic of a ring that's designed to look like that. You could then add this to the point hotspot, add the 3D distortion so it stays with it. If you see all these hotspots, they stay the same size. They look like they're getting bigger and smaller. They're actually physically staying the same size. It's just when the building goes further away and looks smaller, the hotspot looks bigger. But this one actually will stay the size of the pano. We can do this with our custom hotspots here, our custom images, but you can also set this up for the hotspot inside the skin. So not something I want to cover here now today because this is 101, but it is something that the skin editor can do. It has a little checkbox 3D hotspot and then it pins it to the panorama. So yes.
Right. And just so I think there's a lot of Google Maps questions. So for those looking to have Google-like arrows that are floating above the floor, 3D arrows, we do provide
There's a component for that. Yeah.
A component for that, which is just a like a little plug and play skin that Martin, I think we covered this already in a previous webinar. Or
What components we haven't done skins yet. We've obviously covered maps because we did a map series of maps and floor plans. There's actually a series of 3 webinars that cover those. But what you're after for 3D arrows, that's actually a component. That's a webinar coming up. I think it's going to be one after the next because our next webinar is going to be 101 patching. But we will be doing 101 customizing, which is looking at the default skins, how we can customize them, how you can quickly open a blank skin and using the component toolbox, throw in your 3D arrows, throw in your, information hotspot if you want it, and then how to quickly make a skin with just picking some, attributes that you want. Do you want a YouTube video pop up? Do you want information pop up? If so, add that to the skin, save it, boom, done. So that is going to be in a couple of weeks, but it's all doable.
Yeah. Okay, so we have another question from Subayan, where they're asking if we can have an audio hotspot. And we have, you can add sound to the panorama. And I think that's what you're asking. What do you think, Martin?
Yeah, I think, basically, again, it's going to be using this, if when we add a point hotspot, we add an element in the skin, a hotspot template. Now, basically, when you click the hotspot, you're activating those actions in that template within the skin. That template can also have the action, mouse click, play media once, or loop it, and you target whichever media you want. You can do that. So yes, you can have sound hotspots. Is the final answer?
Yeah, the answer. Yeah. So those are. Yeah, great. Okay. Subayan says yes. Okay, good. So, and I know this isn't really related to hotspots, but I think it's important to answer this question from Michael. Can you change the font?
Yes. Basically, right. The 101 series of webinars is basically to get you up and running as quickly as possible. But once you're up and running, you can then dive a little bit deeper. Basically, if I was to open up the skin editor to show what the default skin looks like, what we've got here at the bottom is let's just hide this, is external files, and we have our CSS. So you can actually set up an embedded style sheet where you can change. So these are the fonts that we're using at the moment, and the font sizes. You can change it here. So if you know what font you want, you can just change it here. You can have multiple fonts. Each of our text boxes allow you, so let's just quickly throw one in just to show you. You can have different classes, so you can actually have one text box show one class of CSS, so you can have one type of font, or you could actually just put in a single style here. Again, that's not really a 101 type question, but in answer to the question, yes, you can change the font. You can have multiple fonts. You can use HTML inline fonts within any of the text boxes. So again, you could use, like open bracket B, close bracket for a bold attribute. So you can add HTML attributes to text. There's actually many ways to add different typefaces to it.
Yeah. So I think we have just one more question. Sorry, I'm trying to interpret and see if we can cover one more question before we run out of time. And guest 693 is asking, how are you working with the Tor node? Like now, where we're using the hotspots to link nodes. How is that any different than doing it in Google Maps and connecting the images? I think
Okay, I'm not sure I interpreted that, or how to interpret that.
No, I think the question is, it's the same thing, except you are not connected to the internet here. You can export this. This is your own tour.
Oh, I get it. Right. Okay.
Yeah. And you can, of course, upload this to Google Maps using the same connections. There's a lot of benefits where you can bring up places and replace images and things like this, which is, again, I would just forward you to our documentation pages, forum, Facebook page, wherever you like. I just wanted to get that out there.
Just to quickly add to that, if you're building a tour that you want to upload to Google Maps, one, all of your input images need to have location data. And two, the method I showed you for auto linking, you need to do that. Basically, you need the hotspots to point to where the next node is. If you manually add the hotspots like we've been doing and move it, the GPS location may be over here. So when it's published to Google, the arrow might be pointing into a wall where you've moved this to a door. So so that is the main difference, is when you're considering a tour for both self-hosted and Google, you have to be mindful of how you're placing the hotspots. I would not manually place them, I would just auto-link them. If it's not correct, then you can use the tour map, which is covered in our maps webinars on moving the map pins to correct the placement of the hotspots. But do not, I say do not, but don't manually move them in the panorama, because when it's uploaded to Google, it doesn't translate. Google is only interested in the GPS of your nodes, and it will link them via the GPS locations. So yeah, it will ignore where you customly move this or move this point hotspot. It will make no difference to Google. All right, so that's the only thing I would add to that, really.
Yeah, thanks. Actually, Nick has a nice question, and he's wondering if you can show image or video hotspots in Google Street View.
No. Google Street View do not support skins. Basically, when you're uploading to Google, what you're doing is you're injecting your panoramas with the necessary metadata, and those panoramas are being uploaded to Google. Google then present them in their own player, so you get to see their hotspots, their player. But obviously what Pano2VR is having to do is inject the place where the panoramas were shot, where the hotspots need to be linked to, and all of that. But that's just metadata or data that's injected into the images, and then that's sent up to Google. So we are not, or rather, so we don't get to show any of our skin. It's purely Google's player and Google's arrows, and that's all you get, really. On these services that have overlays, how this works is that they have an online server, so they allow you to build a menu skin on their server, and what happens is that the Google tour is pulled through their server. Then the overlay is added to that, and then you have a link. So it's not something local to your desktop. So your link now goes to that provider's server, who drag or not drag, but pull in your Google Maps. I mean, we can do, and I actually have an example in our forum where I did exactly the same thing. It was an HTML page that basically had an iframe that pulled in the Google Maps, and then we had our skin that would select on a drop-down menu what panorama from Google Maps it would display. It's the same thing. I did it locally and uploaded it to my own server. The other service providers have their online solutions, and you link to it to their server. But yeah, basically Google on its own does not provide that sort of interface. It's arrows only. I hope that just about covered all of that. Sorry if I babbled on, but yeah, I thought it was...
Yeah, no, I think that's fun. I think I'm going to guess that a lot of you here today are uploading to Google Street View, or to Google Maps, sorry. And so it probably answers a lot of questions. Okay, so I think we're going to have to close that out. We're already past our time. And I'm really sorry that we didn't get to every single question. There's a lot of questions today. We really appreciate the questions, but we just can't go in detail for every single one. But I encourage you, if you have more questions, just send us an email if you'd like to, or join us on Facebook or on the forums. We're here, and we're happy to help. So, yeah.
Okay, I'd just like to quickly add that if you do want to get onto the forum is by email request only. It's not an open just can't go in there and create. It keeps all the spammers out and all that, so it keeps all the information relevant and good, and it makes the forum a nice place to be. But if you do want to be able to participate in the forum, that's an email to support.gnome.com, as Karen said earlier. Send in also your preferred username. If you don't, I'll make one up for you. If you don't like it, tough. All right, so yeah, please send in your preferred username, and then we can create the accounts for you. And of course, just ask to join the Facebook groups, and obviously if someone sees that, we'll let you in. All right, so that's that. Right, well, I think I'm done.
What's happening next week, Martin?
Well, I was going to say I'm done. Yeah, no, I was going to say I'm done. Voice is going, but before we do go, just to say that next week, webinar number 3 in the Pano2VR 101 series is about patching. We've seen briefly how we can use mirror balls and other things, but what do you do if you want to get rid of such things as these purple marks and some other things in the panoramas? How can we solve those problems? And if we actually don't want to see a mirror ball or a logo on the floor, we actually want to see a proper floor but want to get rid of that tripod, how do we do that? So that's what next week's is all about, is diving in a little bit deeper to patching. Okay, so that's it from me. Yeah, see you next week.
Yeah, see you guys next week and see you around. Yeah, it's been a good one.
All right, take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.